He proposed across galaxies, and she said, "Tip first." Now entire star systems are arguing about humanity's strangest power, self-respect. Where are you watching from? Subscribe, join the crew, and let's begin this story. The neon sign of the Comet Diner flickered against the burnt orange sky of Albuquerque, casting long shadows across Route 66. Year 2521, and some things never changed. Jade Morales wiped down the counter for the third time that hour, her hands moving on autopilot. The burns on her palms from years at the griddle had long stopped hurting. They were just part of her now, like the permanent smell of green chili that clung to her uniform. Tuesday nights were always slow. The regulars had come and gone. Old Mr. Chen with his black coffee and conspiracy theories about the Aurelian Concordata, Maria from the laundromat with her usual order of pancakes and gossip. Now it was just Jade, the hum of the ancient refrigerator, and the distant sound of her 12-year-old brother Leo practicing guitar in the back apartment. The bell above the door chimed. Jade looked up and immediately knew this customer was different. He was tall, impossibly so, with skin that seemed to catch the light like polished opal. His hair was dark with metallic highlights that shifted when he moved. He wore clothes that probably cost more than her entire month's rent, but he carried himself with the awkward uncertainty of someone who had never opened a door for themselves. Behind him, a woman in tactical gear scanned the diner with the cold efficiency of a bodyguard. Her hand never strayed far from something at her hip. The man slid into a booth with the careful movements of someone unfamiliar with furniture, designed for comfort rather than status, his golden eyes fixed on the laminated menu with genuine curiosity. Jade grabbed her notepad and walked over, professional smile in place. She had seen plenty of tourists gawking at the old Route 66 nostalgia, but this felt different. This felt like someone playing tourist in humanity itself. "What can I get you?" she asked. He looked up, and for a moment, something like wonder crossed his perfect features. "What would you recommend?" "Green chili burger. It's what we're known for. Fair warning, it has kick." "Then I will trust your expertise." His accent was strange, musical but formal, like someone who learned language from textbooks rather than conversation. Jade called the order back to the kitchen, where Manuel was probably scrolling through feeds on his phone. She poured water, set down silverware, and tried not to stare at the way the stranger's skin seemed to shimmer under the fluorescent lights. 20 minutes later, she set the burger in front of him. He stared at it like it was a work of art, lifted it with both hands, and took a careful bite. The change in his expression was immediate. His eyes widened, his posture shifted, and for just a second, the careful mask of formality cracked completely. He looked like a kid discovering ice cream for the first time. "This is—" he started, then seemed to lose words entirely. Jade found herself smiling for real. "Yeah, my mom's recipe. The chili comes from Hatch, roasted the old way. The patty is local beef, hand-pressed. Secrets in the seasoning and not overthinking it." He ate slowly, savoring each bite with an intensity that was almost uncomfortable to watch. When he finished, he sat back, looking genuinely moved. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I have eaten at the finest establishments across 12 systems. Nothing has tasted like this." Jade felt something warm and complicated bloom in her chest. Pride, maybe, or the echo of her mother's voice in her head. "Food is love, Mija. Never forget that." The stranger pulled out a card, sleek and metallic, and placed it on the table. Diplomatic credit, she realized. The kind that cleared automatically, no signatures needed. The transaction pinged on the ancient register. He stood, still looking at her with that unguarded expression. The bodyguard moved to his side, alert and ready, and then he said it. "Would you marry me?" The diner seemed to freeze. Even the refrigerator stopped humming. Jade blinked, certain she had misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "I realize this is sudden," he continued, the words tumbling out like he had not planned them at all. "But I have never experienced anything like this. The care, the craft, The way you explained your mother's legacy with such quiet pride. I want to understand this. I want to understand you." Jade looked down at the check. The meal was paid for, but the tip line was blank. She looked back up at this strange, luminous man who had just proposed marriage over a burger, and something in her spine turned to steel. Her mother had worked herself sick in this diner, had cried over bills in the back office, had taught Jade that respect was not given freely, it was earned and shown in the details. Jade pointed at the tip line. "Tip first," she said. The words hung in the air. The bodyguard's hand twitched toward her weapon. The stranger's perfect face shifted through confusion, realization, and something that might have been embarrassment. And in the corner booth, a tourist with a camera feed running captured every second. By morning, the galaxy would know what happened when a prince forgot to tip. The first call came at 6 in the morning. Jade was already awake, prepping for the breakfast rush that never quite materialized anymore. The voice on the other end was clipped, professional, and absolutely terrified. "Ms. Morales, this is Communications Director Yates from the Territorial Relations Office. We need to discuss last night's incident." Jade switched the phone to speaker and kept chopping onions. "The guy who didn't tip, what about it?" "So that was Prince Soren Valeris of the Solar House. The video has 17 million views across Earth feeds alone. The Aurelian networks are..." He paused, searching for words. "Reacting strongly." Jade stopped chopping. 17 million? By noon, it was 50 million. By dinner, it had jumped systems entirely. The feeds were insane. Half the comments were laughing. The other half were analyzing it like a political incident. Someone had already made a remix of Tip First, set to old Earth music. Leo thought it was hilarious and kept playing it on loop. The second call came from Director Huxley himself. Smooth voice. Politician's smile she could hear through the phone. "Ms. Morales, this is a unique opportunity for Earth-Aurelian relations. We would love to coordinate a response that benefits everyone." "I just asked for a tip," Jade said flatly. Of course. But perhaps we could frame this as a cultural exchange moment, show that we're all learning from each other." Something in his tone made her skin crawl. "I'll think about it." She did not think about it. The third disruption was not a call. It was the prince himself, walking through the door at 8 p.m. with a full security detail, a camera crew, and what looked like half the local media. Jade was mid-order when the bell chimed. She looked up and felt her stomach drop. Soren Valeris looked different in person for the second time. Less shocked, more determined. He wore simpler clothes, though they still probably cost a fortune. His bodyguard, the woman from last night, swept the diner with tactical efficiency before nodding. "Ms. Morales," Soren said, his voice carrying to every camera, "I have come to apologize." The diner went silent. Manuel poked his head out from the kitchen. Leo appeared in the doorway of the back apartment, guitar still in hand. "In Aurelian culture," Soren continued, "additional payment for service is considered insulting. It implies the work itself was not valued enough in the original price. But I have spent today learning about Earth customs, about your economy, about the way service workers are compensated." He paused, and his expression softened into something genuine. "I was thoughtless. I saw only through my own lens. For that I am deeply sorry." Jade set down her notepad. The cameras were rolling. Every word would be analyzed. But something in his apology felt real, in a way the politician's call had not. "Apology accepted," she said carefully. "But you should know, it's not just about money. It's about seeing people, really seeing them." Soren nodded slowly. "Then I would like to learn. If you would permit me, I would like to understand the work you do. Not as a prince, as someone who wants to see." Jade studied him. The bodyguard looked like she wanted to intervene. The cameras waited. And Jade made a decision that would change everything. She walked to the supply closet, pulled out a faded apron, and tossed it to him. "Dishes?" she said. "Sinks in the back. You break it, you buy it." The cameras erupted. The bodyguard stepped forward. But Soren caught the apron, and something like joy crossed his face. "I would be honored," he said. And that was how Prince Soren Valeris of the Solar House found himself elbow-deep in sudsy water, scrubbing plates under the bemused supervision of a 12-year-old with a camera and a gift for commentary. "You missed a spot," Leo said. "Filming everything." "No, the other spot. Do you even know what soap does?" Soren laughed. Actually, laughed, bright and surprised. "I am learning." Jade watched from the dining room, taking orders and trying not to smile. The bodyguard had introduced herself as Captain Nyla Wren and was now nursing coffee at the counter, her tactical assessment of the diner apparently complete. "You know this is insane," Nyla said quietly. "Which part?" Jade asked. "All of it. A prince doing dishes, you treating him like a prep cook. The fact that this is somehow the most genuine interaction he has had in years." Jade refilled Nyla's cup. "Maybe that says more about his life than mine." Nyla studied her with sharp eyes. "You're not afraid of him." "Should I be? Most people are afraid of what he represents." "He's just a guy who forgot to tip," Jade said. "Happens every Tuesday." But even as she said it, she knew it was not quite true anymore. Because Soren was laughing in her kitchen, and Leo was narrating like a sports commentator, and somewhere out there, the galaxy was watching a prince learn what it meant to serve. The video Leo posted that night, titled "Royalty, Washed," hit 100 million views in 6 hours. The comments section became a philosophical debate about class, service, and dignity that spanned 12 systems. And in a government office, Director Huxley watched the feeds and smiled. Opportunity, he thought. This was opportunity. Director Huxley arrived on Thursday with contracts and cameras. He wore a suit that cost more than Jade's car, and a smile that never reached his eyes. "Ms. Morales, you have become the face of Earth-Aurelian relations," he said, spreading documents across the diner's counter. "We have an opportunity here, a partnership that benefits everyone." Jade scanned the papers, joint appearances, publicity tours, her signature on endorsements she had never agreed to. "This says I support the new trade agreements, which create jobs, opportunities for people just like you. Have you actually read what's in those agreements?" Huxley's smile tightened. "I assure you, our legal team has thoroughly vetted every clause. This is about moving forward together, about showing that Earth and the conquered Ada can build something beautiful." Jade thought about her mother, working double shifts, hiding medical bills in recipe books, about the careful way the contract language twisted opportunity into something that felt like exploitation with better marketing. "I need time to think," she said. "Of course, but the media cycle moves quickly. We would hate for the narrative to get away from us." It was not quite a threat, but it was not quite not a threat either. After Huxley left, Soren returned. He had been coming every evening, learning the rhythms of the diner, how to flip burgers without burning them, how to read the subtle signals that meant someone wanted to be left alone versus someone who needed conversation, how to move through the space like he belonged there instead of visiting from another world. "He wants to use you," Soren said quietly, watching through the window as Huxley's car disappeared. "I know," Jade said. "Question is, what do you want?" Soren looked at her with those impossible golden eyes. "I want to learn how you do this, how you make people feel seen. Every night I have watched you work, and it is like witnessing artistry. The way you remember orders, the way you adjust your approach for each person, the way you turn service into dignity." He paused. "I want to understand why that matters so much to you." Before Jade could answer, Leo shouted from the back, "Jade, you need to see this." The feeds were exploding again, but this time it was not about Soren. It was about Lady Veritha Nem, Aurelian diplomat and rumored fiancé, announcing her arrival to Earth. The images showed someone of devastating classical beauty, every movement calculated for maximum grace. "Is that true?" Jade asked Soren. "You were supposed to marry her?" "It was discussed," Soren said carefully. "Our families believed an alliance would be beneficial, but nothing was ever formalized." "Does she know that?" The question hung in the air. 2 days later, Lady Vareth walked into the Comet Diner like she owned the concept of elegance itself. Her skin shimmered like pearl. Her hair was arranged in intricate patterns that probably took hours. She surveyed the diner with the cool assessment of someone evaluating real estate. Then she looked at Jade and smiled. "So you are the human who has captivated Soren," Vareth said. "I wanted to see for myself what all the fuss was about." Jade wiped her hands on her apron. "Can I get you something?" "Coffee, black, and conversation." They sat in the corner booth while Soren washed dishes and tried very hard to pretend he was not listening. Nyla, who had become a regular fixture at the counter, watched everything with tactical interest. "I am not here to fight you," Vareth said, stirring her coffee with elegant precision. "I am here because Soren has never been this alive. I have known him since childhood. I have seen him fulfill every duty, meet every expectation, smile for every camera, and I have never seen him laugh the way he laughs when he burns himself on your griddle. So what do you want?" "I want him to be happy, truly happy, but I also want to know if this is real or if you are playing a long game for status." Jade met her eyes. "I did not ask for any of this. I asked for a tip." Vareth laughed, surprised and genuine. "Yes, you did. And somehow that simple act of self-respect has shaken 3 systems worth of assumptions." She leaned forward. "If you care for him, truly care, then you must understand something. Love without dignity is just pretty slavery. If he is to court you properly, he must earn you, not with titles or wealth, but with character." "I know," Jade said quietly. "Good." Vareth stood, leaving exact change plus a generous tip. "Then make him prove it." That night, Leo showed Jade the new feeds, the conspiracy theories, the think pieces, but also the darker stuff, forums organizing, groups calling themselves Pure Terra, talking about contamination and purity, threats buried in comment sections. "Should we be worried?" Leo asked. Jade looked at her little brother, trying to seem brave and 12 at the same time. She thought about her mother's words in the recipe book, still hidden in the office. She thought about Soren learning to serve, about Vareth's challenge, about Huxley's contracts. "Yeah," she said honestly, "but we worry while we keep working." Outside, the desert sky burned with sunset. Inside, a prince learned that love starts with seeing people. And somewhere in the system, forces were aligning that would test whether dignity was worth fighting for. The griddle burned hot on Friday nights. Jade had Soren working the line beside her, teaching him the rhythm of short-order cooking. Manuel had the night off, and Leo was filming from his usual corner, narrating like it was a cooking show from hell. "Watch the edges," Jade said, not looking up from her own station. "When they start to brown, you flip. Not before." Soren nodded, spatula in hand, focused with the same intensity he probably gave to diplomatic treaties. The burger sizzled. He reached to flip it, misjudged the angle, and his forearm brushed the griddle's edge. The sound he made was small but sharp. He jerked back, cradling his arm. Jade was there immediately, pulling him to the sink, running cold water over the burn. It was not terrible, just a graze, but his skin was already reddening. "First rule," she said, holding his arm under the stream. "Respect the heat. Second rule, scars are part of the job." She showed him her own hands, the old burns layered like a map of years. Soren stared at them, then at her face. "You do this every day," he said quietly. "Yeah, it's called work." Something shifted in his expression. Understanding maybe, or the beginning of it. From the counter, Nyla was laughing. Actually laughing. Her professional composure cracked completely. "The mighty prince, felled by breakfast food," she said, pulling out her credit chip. "That's worth documenting." She walked over and for the first time since arriving on Earth, left a tip in the jar by the register. 20%, calculated precisely. For the entertainment, Nyla said, and the lesson. Leo's video went viral within hours. The comments were different this time. Less mocking, more affectionate. People were starting to see Soren not as a prince slumming with commoners, but as someone genuinely trying to learn. The shift was subtle but real, which made what happened next hurt even more. The announcement came Monday morning. Director Huxley standing beside Aurelian trade representatives, declaring a new partnership. Earth workers would staff Aurelian facilities. Cultural exchange programs would flourish. Everyone would benefit. The contracts were already signed. Jade read the details in the feeds and felt cold spread through her chest. The wages were technically legal, but impossibly low. The hours were brutal. The fine print included clauses about housing and food being provided, costs deducted from pay, trapping workers in debt cycles. It was exploitation dressed in the language of opportunity, and Huxley had signed it using the viral moment as leverage. "Did you know about this?" Jade asked Soren that evening. Her voice was flat, controlled, but fury simmered underneath. "No," Soren said, looking genuinely shaken. "I had no authority over trade negotiations. My role was ceremonial. Yes, your presence made this possible. Your face in my diner, learning to flip burgers, that made everyone think this was about respect and partnership. And Huxley used it." "Jade, I would never—" "I know, but it happened anyway." Soren looked at the contracts on his tablet, reading through the clauses with growing horror. "This is not what I wanted. This is everything I was trying to understand how to avoid." "Wanting and doing are different things," Jade said. "My mother used to say that good intentions pave the road to hell. What matters is what you actually do about it." "Then I will do something," Soren said, his voice hardening with determination she had not heard before. "I may not have trade authority, but I have other resources. I can expose this." "They will crush you. Huxley has political backing. Your own people signed off on this. Then let them try." Neela, listening from her usual post, set down her coffee cup. "If you go public against this, you are burning bridges with the Concordata Trade Council. They will see it as a prince choosing a human over his own kind." "Good," Soren said. "Let them see exactly that." But before he could make any moves, the feeds exploded with something else. Pure Terra, the extremist group that had been festering in comment sections, announced a demonstration. They would protest the cultural contamination at the source. They would make their stand at the Comet Diner. The threats were no longer buried in forums. They were public, organized, and growing. Leo showed Jade the messages, his hands shaking slightly. "They are really coming here?" Jade pulled her brother close. "Let them come. We have handled angry customers before." But Nyla was already on her comm, requesting backup, and Soren was staring at the feeds with the expression of someone realizing that wanting to help and actually protecting people required very different skills. Outside, the desert wind picked up. Inside, the Comet Diner felt smaller, more fragile, and infinitely more precious. The battle lines were being drawn, and Jade Morales, who had only ever wanted to serve good food and pay her bills, found herself at the center of something that felt like it could break worlds. Or maybe, just maybe, fix them. The interview was scheduled for Wednesday, prime time across 3 systems. Jade sat in the makeup chair feeling like a fraud while technicians tried to tame her hair and hide the exhaustion in her eyes. "Just be yourself," Adors, the producer said with the kind of smile that meant be yourself but more marketable. Across from her, Soren sat perfectly still while his own team fussed. He caught her eye and offered a small, genuine smile. In the past week, he had learned to crack eggs, prep vegetables, and close the diner without breaking anything. He had also learned that burns heal, but the muscle memory of respect lasts longer. The interview went better than expected. The host was charming, the questions were softballs, and Jade found herself talking about her mother, about the diner, about what it meant to serve people with dignity. Soren spoke about learning to see humanity not as a concept, but as individual people with individual struggles. The final question was perfect setup. So what's next for this unlikely partnership? Jade opened her mouth, but before she could speak, the feed cut to Director Huxley. Live from the signing ceremony, smiling beside Aurelian officials, announcing the partnership program as if it were the natural extension of everything Jade and Soren represented. Building bridges, Huxley said. Creating opportunities, showing that when we work together, everyone prospers. The host beamed, the audience applauded, and Jade felt something die inside her chest. After the cameras stopped, Soren found her in the green room. I am going to fix this. How? Jade asked. He used us. He used what we were trying to build and turned it into this. Then we show people the truth. We expose the contracts. And who will listen? We just legitimized him on live feeds. We smiled and talked about dignity while he was selling people into debt traps. Jade went home and found Leo in the office, surrounded by printouts of the contracts. Her 12-year-old brother had highlighted every exploitative clause in red. The pages looked like they were bleeding. It's bad, Leo said quietly. Really bad. People are already signing up. They think it's like what you and Soren are doing. They think it's real opportunity. Jade picked up her mother's old recipe book, the one with grease stains and handwritten notes. She opened it to a random page and found one of the hidden messages her mother used to leave. Servir è arte, non submissão. Service is art, not submission. Her mother had written it in Portuguese, the language she used when she needed to remember who she was under all the exhaustion. Jade traced the words with her finger, feeling the indent where the pen had pressed hard into paper. Mom died working, Jade said aloud. Did I ever tell you that? She was sick, needed rest, but she could not afford to take time off, so she kept coming in, kept serving, kept smiling, and one day her heart just stopped. Leo looked up, eyes wide. I found her in the kitchen. She had been prepping for the lunch rush. There was a note in her pocket with our names and a recipe for green chile stew. Like she knew. Like she was still trying to feed us even after. Jade! I promised myself I would never let anyone make me small like that. Never let anyone treat service like it was less than art. And now I stood on a stage and smiled while Huxley sold that same lie to thousands of people. She closed the book carefully like it was made of something more fragile than paper and ink. The feeds that night were chaos, half celebrating the new partnership, half questioning the details. And buried in the comment sections, pure terror was organizing. Not just protests. Something worse. Lady Verith called. Her voice was cool but not unkind. You are in deeper than you realize. Huxley has positioned this as inevitable. If you fight now, you look like you are sabotaging peace. So what do? You make him prove love is about more than photo opportunities. You make this cost him something real. And then you see if he pays the price. Jade looked out the diner window at the empty street. Tomorrow Soren would return, ready to work another shift, ready to learn another lesson. But learning and changing systems were different games. The question was whether a prince who had learned to wash dishes could learn to burn down the structures that kept people like her mother working until their hearts gave out. Outside, thunder rolled across the desert. Inside, Jade Morales made a decision. If this was going to be a fight, she would make it one worth having. And if that meant taking down a prince and a politician to protect people who just wanted to work with dignity, so be it. Thursday night, Jade could not sleep. She sat in the office with her mother's recipe book open, reading the notes scattered between instructions for pozole and carne adobada. Little messages in Portuguese, hidden like secrets between the measurements. Trabalho com amor, mas nunca sem respeito. Work with love, but never without respect. The date on that entry was 2 weeks before her mother died. Jade had been 17. Leo was 7. And their mother had known she was sick, but kept working because what choice did she have? The medical bills were already crushing. Taking time off meant losing everything. Jade pressed her palm against the page, feeling the ghost of her mother's hand. Then she kept reading. That was when she found it, tucked between a recipe for flan and notes about supplier costs. A letter her mother had started but never finished. To my Jade, if you are reading this, I am gone. Do not let them make you small. Service is holy work when done with dignity, but never confuse sacrifice with surrender. Make them see you. Make them pay for the labor. Make them understand that every plate served, every table cleaned, every smile given costs something, and that cost deserves acknowledgement. Te amo, mija, be bigger than I could be. Jade's hands shook. She had carried her mother's strength for 12 years without knowing her mother had carried this clarity. This absolute understanding that the system was broken and someone needed to refuse to break with it. When Soren arrived Friday morning, early before the diner opened, Jade handed him the notebook. "Read it," she said. He read slowly, carefully, his expression shifting from curiosity to understanding to something that looked like grief. When he finished, he looked up with eyes that held genuine pain. "This is what I have been blind to. This exact thing. The cost of dignity." "It's not just about tips," Jade said. "It's about systems that make people choose between health and survival. It's about Huxley's contracts that look like opportunity, but work exactly like what killed my mother." That afternoon, the exposé dropped. An independent journalist had gotten inside the new partnership facilities. The footage showed cramped housing, impossible quotas, wages that disappeared into company-owned stores and mandatory fees. Everything designed to look legal while functioning as indentured servitude. The feeds erupted. Huxley went on damage control, spinning it as growing pains, necessary adjustments, isolated incidents. But the images were damning. Soren contacted his family's counsel, demanded they withdraw support for the trade agreements. They refused, told him to stop embarrassing the Concordata with his human fixation, reminded him that he was a figurehead, not a policymaker. He hung up and turned to Jade. "I have one option, the Solar Tour Fund. It is discretionary money allocated for my visits, officially for public relations and cultural initiatives. Unofficially, it's substantial. I can redirect it." To what? To actually building what Huxley pretended to build. Fair wages, real housing, dignity in practice, not just marketing. "They will destroy you politically," Nyla said from her post. She had been listening to everything, her tactical assessment of the situation clear in her expression. "Your family will cut you off. The Concordata will make you a cautionary tale." "Then let them," Soren said. "Jade's mother died serving people. The least I can do is spend money meant for photo opportunities on actually helping." But before they could move, the second shoe dropped. Nyla's security contacts sent urgent intel. Pure Terra was not planning a protest. They were planning an attack. The target, the upcoming reconciliation dinner Huxley had scheduled at the Comet Diner. The method, fire and chaos. The dinner was in 3 days. Huxley had already sent invitations to every major media outlet. It was supposed to be the culminating moment of his partnership narrative. Jade serving food to Aurelian dignitaries while Soren gave a speech about unity. Now it was a target. "We cancel," Nyla said immediately. "We don't," Jade countered. "We prepare, because if we run, they win. And if they win, everything my mother believed about dignity becomes a joke." Soren looked between them. Then he nodded. "We make our stand here, together." Outside, storm clouds gathered over Albuquerque. Inside, 3 people who had started as strangers began planning how to turn a diner into a fortress, and a statement worth defending. Saturday morning, Jade woke to find Leo's bedroom empty. Panic hit her chest like a fist until she found the note. "Staying at Marcus's house. His mom said it's safer. Sorry." Her 12-year-old brother was hiding because their diner had become a battleground. Jade sat on his bed, holding the note, and let herself break just a little. Just for a minute. Just enough to remember she was human and afraid and so tired of fighting. Then she got up and went to work. The diner felt wrong without Leo's music in the background. Soren noticed immediately when he arrived. "Where is he?" "Somewhere safe." "Jade, just don't. You get to go back to a palace with shields and security. Leo and I live here. This is our home. And people want to burn it because I asked for a damn tip." Soren absorbed the hit without flinching. "You are right. I can leave, but I am choosing to stay." Choosing is easy when you have options. The words hung between them, sharp and true and painful. Lady Verith arrived at noon, elegant as always, but with purpose in her stride. She sat across from Jade in the corner booth and spoke without preamble. "Soren plans to renounce his claim to Solar House succession if the Council does not withdraw support for Huxley's contracts." Jade's coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. "What?" "He will make the announcement at the dinner. Public declaration, permanent consequences. He believes it will force them to act. It will destroy him." "Yes, but he will do it anyway. For you, for your mother's memory, for whatever ideal of love he has constructed in his mind while learning to wash dishes." Verith leaned forward. "So I am here to ask, does he deserve to burn his world down for you? I never asked him to." "That is not the question. The question is, have you earned this sacrifice through your own actions? Or are you letting a prince ruin himself for the aesthetic of your righteous anger?" The words were cruel and precise, and exactly what Jade needed to hear. "I don't know," Jade said honestly. "Then figure it out, because if you let him do this without being certain, you are no better than Huxley, using people for your cause while calling it virtue." Verith left exact change and a tip that matched her bill to the cent. A reminder that respect could be calculated and still be real. That evening, Nyla's intelligence confirmed the worst. Pure Terra had someone inside the local government. Someone feeding them security layouts and helping them bypass standard checks. The attack was not just planned. It was coordinated. "We need to cancel," Nyla said again, but with less conviction than before. Soren shook his head. "If we cancel, Huxley controls the narrative. He will say we abandoned our principles, that the partnership is the only stable option." "If we don't cancel, people might die," Jade said quietly. They sat in silence, the weight of the choice crushing down on all of them. Finally, Soren spoke. "Then we prepare for both. We hold the dinner. We have emergency protocols, and we make sure that if they come, they find something worth fighting back against." Jade looked at this prince who had learned to flip burgers and now wanted to risk everything on a principle most people abandoned by adulthood. "Why?" she asked. "Really? Why does this matter so much to you?" Soren was quiet for a long time. Then, "Because before I met you, I had never questioned whether my life had meaning beyond ceremony. I existed, I fulfilled roles, but I did not see people. And once you see them, truly see them, you cannot go back to comfortable blindness. So I stay because the alternative is becoming the kind of man who knew better and chose ignorance anyway." Outside, the sun set over the desert in shades of red and gold. Inside the Comet Diner, 3 people prepared for a battle they could not afford to lose but had no guarantee of winning. And somewhere across the city, Leo Morales sat in a friend's house, watching feeds of his sister, and prayed to their mother that courage would be enough. Sunday morning, Jade opened the diner to find people waiting. Not customers, neighbors, Manuel from the kitchen staff, Maria from the laundromat, Mr. Chen with his conspiracy theories and his toolbox. Even some of the regulars from the breakfast shift who had not said 2 words to her in years. "We heard about Tuesday," Maria said simply. "We are not letting them burn down Carmen's place." Carmen, her mother's name. Jade had not heard it spoken aloud in months. They came with supplies, fire extinguishers, first aid kits. Someone brought industrial fans and someone else brought a commercial sprinkler system they claimed fell off a truck. "Mister," Chen installed alert sensors with the efficiency of someone who had definitely done this before. Soren and Nyla arrived to find the comet transformed into something between a community center and a tactical position. Nyla assessed the modifications with professional appreciation. "Not terrible," she said. "Still vulnerable, but you have made it defensible." The community worked through the day. Soren helped install the sprinkler system, learning from Mr. Chen with the same attention he had given to flipping burgers. Someone brought food, someone else brought their kids, and somehow the diner filled with a kind of determined warmth that only comes from people who have decided that this specific place, this specific fight, matters enough to risk safety for principle. By evening, they had protocols, evacuation routes, communication signals. Nyla had coordinated with local emergency services while carefully avoiding anyone who might be compromised. Lady Verith arrived with additional security personnel, offered without comment or expectation of gratitude. "Consider it an investment in good drama," Verith said when Jade thanked her. Monday was preparation. Jade cooked, Soren prepped. The menu for Tuesday's dinner was simple but deliberate. Green chili burgers, her mother's recipe, served to everyone regardless of species or status, a statement about what mattered. That evening, Leo called. "I want to come back," he said. "No." "Jade, it's our home. If you are fighting for it, I should be there." "You should be safe. That's what Mom would want. Mom would want us together." His voice cracked slightly. "Please, I can help. I can film it. Make sure people see what really happens." Jade closed her eyes, 12 years old and already understanding that bearing witness was a form of resistance. "Stay on the line with me the whole time," she said finally. "And if I say run, you run. Deal?" "Deal." Tuesday morning arrived with clear skies and tension thick enough to taste. The dinner was scheduled for 7. Media started arriving at 5. Huxley showed up at 6, all smiles and handshakes, completely oblivious to the undercurrent of preparation. "This is going to be beautiful," he said to the cameras. "A true celebration of partnership." "Nah." Jade watched him perform and felt nothing but cold clarity. He genuinely believed his own narrative, genuinely thought he was building something good. That was almost worse than malice. Ignorance with power was a special kind of dangerous. At 6:30, the Aurelian dignitaries arrived, elegant, polished, carrying themselves with the assumption of safety that came from never having to fight for space. At 6:45, Nyla's security alert pinged. Movement outside. Multiple heat signatures. The pattern was wrong for media or guests. "They are here," Nyla said quietly into her comm. Soren looked at Jade. Jade looked at her diner, full of people who had come for a meal and a message. Leo's camera feed went live from his friend's house, streaming to thousands. And Jade Morales, daughter of Carmen Morales, granddaughter of people who had served food and dignity for generations, made her final preparation. She tied on her mother's old apron, the one with burn marks and grease stains, and the embroidered words, "Service with love, Opa." Then she rang the bell for dinner service and waited for the world to catch fire. The first course was served without incident, burgers placed before Aurelian dignitaries who approached them with cautious curiosity. Cameras rolling, Huxley beaming, everything perfect for his narrative. Then the lights flickered. The emergency exit doors slammed shut, magnetic locks engaging with heavy clicks. Someone screamed. The griddle's gas line hissed louder than it should. And through the kitchen window, Jade saw the flash of ignition. Fire bloomed across the cooking line, fast and chemical bright. Not natural, not accidental. "Everyone down!" Nyla shouted, already moving. She grabbed the nearest fire extinguisher, but 3 more ignition points flared. The attack was coordinated, systematic. The sprinklers activated, but someone had sabotaged the pressure. Water came in weak streams instead of the deluge needed. Smoke filled the dining room. People panicked, pushing toward exits that would not open. Jade's mind went crystalline calm, the same clarity she got during a rush when 6 orders came in at once and the griddle was failing. She saw Leo's camera feed still streaming, saw Soren frozen in shock, saw Huxley trying to flee and finding himself trapped with everyone else. "The main gas valve!" she shouted to Soren. "It's in the kitchen, behind the walk-in. Shut it or we all die." Soren moved. But the fire was between him and the valve, a wall of heat and smoke. Nyla was busy dragging people away from the worst of it, using her own body as a shield. The Aurelian dignitaries huddled together, their elegant composure shattered. Jade grabbed a wet towel, wrapped it around her face, and ran toward the kitchen. Soren met her there, his hands already glowing with the faint shimmer of personal shields. "I can create a barrier," he said, "but it will burn me. Then we both burn." He looked at her, and in that moment of smoke and fire and absolute chaos, something wordless passed between them. Understanding, partnership, love built on something more solid than attraction or nobility. Soren extended his shields, bending them around the fire's core, creating a narrow corridor. The effort made his skin redden immediately, the personal shields not designed for prolonged heat exposure. Jade dove through, feeling the heat scorch her arms even through the wet towel. The valve was old, industrial, designed for strength, not convenience. It required force to turn. Jade grabbed it with both hands and pulled. The metal was scalding. She felt her palms blister immediately, the new burns layering over old scars. She did not let go. Behind her, Soren's shields flickered. She could hear his breathing, ragged with pain. The valve turned a quarter rotation. Halfway, 3/4. "Jade, I can't hold it!" She screamed and threw all her weight into the turn. The valve sealed, the gas cut, and the fire, deprived of fuel, began to retreat. Jade collapsed. Soren caught her. His own hands burned where the shields had failed, his skin blistered and raw. They held each other in the wreckage of the kitchen, while Nyla and the community members finally got the emergency exits open and people poured out into the night air. Fire trucks arrived, ambulances, police arresting Pure Terra members who had been caught trying to flee. And every camera in 3 systems watched as Soren Valeris, Prince of the Solar House, carried Jade Morales out of the burning diner, both of them covered in ash and blood and burns. Huxley tried to spin it, tried to make himself the victim, but Leo's camera had caught everything. The sabotage, the panic, and most damning, Huxley pushing past people to save himself while Jade ran toward the fire. The feeds were merciless. In the hospital, while medics treated their burns, Soren made his call, not to his family, to the media, live broadcast across the Concordata networks. "I am redirecting the entire Solar Tour Fund," he said, his voice steady despite the pain. "Not to publicity, not to ceremonies, to the workers trapped in the partnership contracts, to fair wages, real housing, and the dignity my people pretended to offer but never delivered." He pulled out his diplomatic card, the same one from that first night, and held it up to the camera. "I came to Earth to take photo opportunities, cultural experience, the thrill of slumming with humans. But Jade Morales taught me that taking without giving is theft, service without respect is slavery, and love without dignity is just pretty chains." He set the card down on the hospital tray. "So, I give back. Everything I took, everything I learned, everything I can offer. Not because it makes me look good, but because it is right. And if my family cannot understand that, then I am proud to disappoint them." The feeds exploded. The Concordata Council tried to do damage control, but the images of Jade's burned hands and Soren's blistered skin told a story no politician could spin away. And in her hospital bed, Jade watched the man who had asked to marry her over a burger prove that he understood what marriage actually meant, choosing to stand in the fire together. 3 weeks later, the Comet Diner reopened. The repairs had been paid for by an anonymous donation that everyone knew came from Lady Verith. The new sign flickered the same as the old one, but now when the power wavered, it blinked, "Don't panic," in neon green. Mr. Chen's contribution to the rebuild. Huxley was under investigation. The partnership contracts were suspended pending review. Pure Terra members faced federal charges, and across 3 systems the Aurelian Concordata was having very loud, very public arguments about labor practices and dignity in service. Jade's hands healed slowly. The new burns would scar, layering over the old ones, a map of survival and choice. Soren's hands matched hers now. He wore the scars like medals, refused synthetic skin treatments that would erase them. "I earned these," he told the medical team. "I want to remember." The reopening night was quiet. Just regulars, just neighbors, just the people who had always seen the comet as more than a tourist stop on an old highway. Leo played guitar in the corner, his latest song about fire and phoenixes and the stubborn refusal to burn. Nyla sat at the counter, her usual post, coffee in hand. She had been offered a promotion back to the Concordata. She turned it down, said she preferred guarding someone who actually understood what they were protecting. Lady Verith sent a message. Dignidad es erotismo inteligente. Your mother was correct about everything. At closing time, after the last customer left and Leo was in the back doing homework, Soren helped Jade wipe down tables. They moved in comfortable silence, the rhythm of closing as familiar now as breathing. On the sidewalk outside, away from cameras and feeds and the galaxies' watching eyes, Soren pulled out a small box. "I want to ask you something," he said. "But first, I need you to know that I understand the answer might be no. That earning you is different from deserving you. That love is not a transaction where burns equal devotion." Jade waited, her scarred hands still damp from washing dishes. "Marry me," Soren said. "Not because I asked over a burger, not because we survived a fire together, but because I want to spend my life learning what you already know. How to see people, how to serve with dignity, how to choose standing in the fire over comfortable distance." He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver ring, and folded beneath it, protected in archival plastic, was a receipt. The first tip he had ever left, 20% calculated carefully with a note in his handwriting, "For teaching me to see." Jade looked at the ring, at the receipt, at this man who had learned that love was not about grand gestures but about showing up, Tuesday after Tuesday, with your hands ready to work. "Ask me again in a year," she said. Soren's expression flickered with confusion, then understanding. "Spend a year here," Jade continued. "Every Tuesday, closing shift, sweep floors, count registers, pay the staff in front of everyone. Learn what it means to honor labor not just in theory, but in practice. Then ask me again." "And if I do all that?" Jade smiled, the expression weary and warm and absolutely certain. "Then I will say yes, not because you are a prince, but because you became the kind of man who understands that dignity is not given. It is practiced, every day, in public, without apology." 1 year later, on a Tuesday at midnight, Soren Valeris stood beside Jade Morales in the Comet Diner. He had just finished counting the register. His hands were permanently scarred now, layered with burns from griddles and determination. He wore an apron with grease stains and the embroidered words, "Service with Love." Leo was in the corner, guitar on his lap, watching with the knowing smile of someone who had filmed the whole journey. Nyla nursed her coffee at the counter, witness to the transformation of a prince into a partner. "Jade Morales," Soren said, his voice quiet and sure. "I have swept your floors. I have paid your staff. I have learned that love is not about what you are willing to give in a moment of grand emotion, but what you are willing to practice in the mundane repetition of commitment. So I ask you again, with a year of Tuesdays behind me and a lifetime ahead, will you marry me?" Hard. Jade looked at this man who had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not innovation or resilience or even love itself. It was the stubborn, ridiculous, beautiful insistence that everyone deserved to be seen, really seen, and honored for the work they did, the lives they lived, the simple act of showing up and trying. "Yes," she said. "Not for the fairy tale, for the work." They kissed in a diner that smelled of green chili and coffee, surrounded by people who understood that the most radical act of love was choosing dignity over comfort, choosing to see, choosing to tip, choosing every single day to practice respect instead of just performing it. The feeds picked it up eventually, another viral moment, another debate about humanity and aliens and what it meant to build bridges. But this time, the message was different. Love does not buy. Love earns. And respect is not whispered in private moments. It is paid in public, in front of the register, without shame or hesitation. Because humanity, at its core, understands something the galaxy keeps forgetting. Everyone who serves deserves to be seen, and seeing costs nothing but changes everything. That is the fuck yeah worth fighting for. In the end, maybe the universe isn't divided between the powerful and the powerless, but between those who see and those who don't. Jade and Soren learned that respect, like gravity, holds everything together when nothing else does. And the smallest act, a tip, a thank you, a look that says I see you, can shake empires more than any rebellion ever could. So, what do you think actually keeps civilizations alive? Technology or empathy? Have you ever realized too late that you were being served by someone you never truly saw? And if love means washing dishes beside someone instead of watching from the throne, would you still call that work? Or worship? If you made it here, write dignity in the comments, so we know you stayed until the last bite of the story. Tell us where in the galaxy, or Earth, you're watching from. Subscribe, like, hype this tale, share it with someone who's ever worked for a tip, and don't miss the next story waiting on the card at the end of the screen. Because somewhere out there, another diner's light is still flickering, and someone else is learning that seeing is the most human act of all.